A suspicious death in suburbia.
There was no burglary, no forced entry.
That was eating at me, thinking, what's going on here?
An enduring mystery.
It was just to the point of, when are we going to get a break in the case?
Can a total stranger help police uncover the truth?
There's deceptions, lies, an underlying evil.
911, do you have an emergency?
Something happened to my husband.
Okay, and your husband?
I don't know what happened.
Okay,
he's
and
not breathing. I think he's dead.
We've already dispatched the police out to your residence, ma'am.
7412 Pontiac 10-4. A lady had called because she had discovered her husband that morning covered with blood.
Police head to the affluent suburb of Indian Hills. It's one of the safest areas in North Little Rock. But not today.
When I went to that door and looked inside, I seen the victim laying in a pool of blood. I'm gonna need some backup out here, 7412 Pontiac, on this unwitnessed death.
Detectives rush to process the grisly scene.
I went upstairs with Officer Mallet, observed a white male, possibly in his 30s.
On closer inspection, police see a gunshot wound to the victim's head.
Eventually, as the body was moved, we found the bullet just right in relation to his forehead, just right there on the pillow.
You could tell it was a 158 grain round-nosed lead bullet, 38 caliber.
Police search for the weapon that fired the fatal shot, but they find nothing. And a close look at the victim's hands rules out a suicide.
If he did try to commit suicide, you would have had blast marks on both hands. We didn't find anything. No residue, nothing.
The investigation has just stepped up a notch.
And so, yeah, it's a homicide.
The victim is 38-year-old Ron Orsini, a well-known local businessman and a respected member of the community.
He was asleep when he was murdered. He never knew what hit him. The man was absolutely defenseless.
Investigators begin scouring the scene for clues.
Search in different angles, making notations if you find any guns in the house and leave them alone. We'll come in and check those. Okay? Let's do it.
Upon looking at the scene, we established that there was no burglary, no forced entry.
Everything was just the way it was supposed to be.
Until they look in Orsini's study.
During the sweep of the house, we found a gun cabinet, and it had several shotguns and rifles and several revolvers and pistols in it. Several would have been capable of firing a .38.
Detectives collect every weapon they can find for evidence. The state crime lab will determine if one of them was used in the murder. With no leads and no obvious suspect list, detectives start looking at the people in Orsini's life.
The spouse is naturally going to be the first one.
Ron Orsini lived with his wife Mary Lee and her teenage daughter Tiffany. By all appearances, a model family, but police have to wonder if there's more to the story.
Did you hear any noises?
According to Mary Lee, Ron came home around 9 p.m.
She gave him something to eat, got Tiffany some cocoa.
Now, you slept with Tiffany.
Mary Lee had been staying in her daughter's room at night.
Her daughter had some kind of illness and was taking some medication, and she wanted to make sure she heard her if she needed help.
She was there with Tiffany in the other bedroom. Ron opened the door and said, "I love you," and then closed the door, and that's the last time they've seen him alive.
Mary Lee says she never heard an intruder or a gunshot. To rule out any suspicion, investigators ask her to submit to a routine test.
He did a TMDT, trace metal detection test on her. These tests are good for about 12 hours after you fire a weapon. In many cases, you can see the outline of the pistol in their hand. It's not there. She had not fired a weapon.
Tiffany's test also turns up negative. Neither Mary Lee nor her daughter fired the murder weapon. Police need to take their investigation to the street.
You always do a background on the victim to see how did his neighbors think about him, how does his business partners think about him.
Sergeant Miles, North Little Rock Police Department?
Yeah. Ron Orsini was in the heating and air conditioning business.
The last time you saw him, did he appear to... We found no evidence that the business was in trouble or that the business was lacking money at all.
Real good guy.
Yeah. He was the type of person you'd like to have as a brother-in-law, son. He was just a real nice guy.
With no clues, no motives, and no suspects, the investigation grinds to a halt. Desperate for answers, detectives learn about another way to move the case forward.
Farley.
We were advised by someone that there was a psychic by the name of Carol Pate.
There was a detective there that I had worked with from time to time, and he knew that I was very good at what I do, dealing with psychic abilities and getting information.
So I talked with Buddy and I said, we have nothing to lose. You know, let's try it. But we don't know Carol. We don't want to tell her too much about the Orsini case.
So investigators invite her to the station to test her abilities.
To meet with us?
Shouldn't be a problem. Be glad to. I'm getting a little bit on this anyway, as we're speaking.
Without being told anything about the case, Carol starts to receive disturbing images.
It's a combination of all the senses. It's an extension of all the senses. Here's this beautiful house. Nice family. Everything had its place. Nobody knows. Nobody knows all the secrets. There's lies, there's deceptions. There's something really wrong in this house.
Can Carol's psychic intuition uncover buried secrets?
We wanted to see, first of all, how close is she going to be to knowing what really happened.
Alrighty.
I knew the inside scoop on it, and nobody else knew about this case. It was not in the papers.
Carol, we have some photos here.
TJ decided he was going to test me, which was fine, because I was used to that.
See if you can tell us anything about the people that are in that lineup.
We laid out about a 6 spread photo with my suspect in it.
That's it. That's the person. That's the murderer.
She picked him out.
You don't believe people can do this stuff. Nobody does. And then when you do it, it's like their whole paradigm just goes boom.
Okay.
I knew then, I think we've got a psychic here. Let's go on with the Orsini case.
We'd like to have you look at an article of clothing and see what you can tell us about it.
As she touches Ron Orsini's shirt, Pate makes an immediate connection.
And then it's like tuning a radio station or a television station. And once I've hit that signature frequency, then I know all about the person. Everything has place. There's something really wrong in this house for a long time. I'm getting a male victim. He's asleep. I'm getting a man with a revolver. The person that this belongs to has been shot while he's in bed.
I sat there and I said, I don't believe this.
Can you see what type of weapon?
It's a revolver. I think a small revolver.
There were 3 revolvers seized from Ron Orsini's house. Was one of them the murder weapon? Ballistics testing is already underway at the State Crime Lab.
There were 3 guns submitted. There was 2 Smith & Wesson and 1 Dan Wesson. They test fire each gun approximately 3 times. Then upon recovering the bullets, we are able to match up the individual characteristics and positively identify a bullet or a cartridge case that had been fired from a particular gun.
But the marks from the test don't match up with the bullet found on Orsini's pillow.
Those 3 guns positively did not fire the evidence bullet.
It's not the result investigators hoped for. But there's one thing they do learn from the ballistics test.
It was a 4-inch Colt revolver that was used as the homicide weapon.
That raises more questions than answers.
I know a lot of people have never been inside a house with revolvers gone off. On a revolver, you put the silencer on the end of it. You have accomplished nothing. I'm here to tell you, you can't miss it.
So how did Mary Lee and her daughter sleep through the gunshot? Unless there's something they're not telling investigators.
That was eating at me, thinking, what's going on here? So that's why I wanted to do another interview with her.
But Mary Lee beats him to it.
Homicide, Sergeant Farley.
She admits she's been holding back information.
You said what? How long have you known about this?
She says she knows who killed her husband.
She said, my brother, Ron Hatcher, he hated Ron. There was some property, and the father had left the bulk of the estate to Mary Lee. He was mad about that. She felt like, to get at her, he killed Ron.
Have investigators discovered the dark family secret from the psychic's vision? North Little Rock police may have finally identified a suspect in the baffling murder case of Ron Orsini.
Ron Hatcher is the brother of Mary Lee Orsini.
Hatcher had been feuding with the Orsinis about a disputed inheritance.
So I called him down to headquarters, advised him of his rights, and he would just nodded his head like, I know what this is all about. He volunteered to take a polygraph. We used the voice stress analyzer, and he passed.
And upon further investigation, his alibi proves to be airtight.
So he was immediately excluded.
It was just to the point of, when are we going to get a break in the case?
I don't know what to make of her right now. I really don't. I'm having a problem with it.
Detectives still can't figure out how Mary Lee slept through the gunshot that killed her husband. But she insists she didn't hear a thing. With each passing day, the truth seems to get further away. But police remain committed to solving Ron Orsini's murder.
He was shot down in his own bed and hadn't done anything to anybody. That's the thing that kept me going.
Once again, they contact psychic Carol Pate.
After you've done about everything you can do and you're sitting there stalemated, anything will help.
This time, they take her to the scene of the crime.
And I was staying anonymous. I was working undercover. No one knew who I was, my involvement.
This is the scene where the homicide occurred.
Let me see what I get. I felt the energy there, but it began to unfold as I was able to tap into other pieces of evidence. I got more pieces of the puzzle. I'm getting nighttime. A man entering in to the side, going up a narrow stairway. I now see a revolver. He's done this for pay. He's been hired.
Do you feel the presence of anyone else in the home?
I'm getting a map. He's been given a map to the interior of the house. There's a woman involved. Very self-centered woman. It's the wife. She'll hurt anyone who's in her way, and she thinks she can get away with it. I believe this is his wife. And there should be money gone out of accounts, missing money. I'd say maybe $30,000 that you won't be able to account for it.
Detectives decide to follow the money trail,
Okay, yes, that's what we need.
and they find what they're looking for. Bank records show Mary Lee spending massive amounts of money without Ron's knowledge.
She was hiding it from him from the information we picked up.
And she had secretly drained the family's savings to purchase a new home.
She took everything that they could muster up and put down $26,000 as the initial down payment.
With nothing left to pay the mortgage, her husband's life insurance policy seemed to offer a way out.
She had credit life. The credit life would mean Ron has to go. And that's your biggest, obvious motive right there.
Detectives finally have a suspect, but there's one critical question to answer before they make an arrest.
Everybody kept on saying, why didn't the little girl hear the gunshot? And you got some records for me, please?
The answer is even more shocking than the crime. With the help of psychic Carol Pate, detectives believe Mary Lee Orsini was in on her husband's murder, but they can't figure out why her daughter Tiffany didn't hear the gunshot. Until they remember that the girl had recently been sick. Mary Lee's pharmacy records hold the answer.
Appreciate you. Have a good day. All right. We reviewed those records and found that Mary Lee had received a very powerful sedative several days before Ron Orsini's murder.
Was Mary Lee drugging her own daughter?
The obvious thing is something was in the cocoa.
It's possible she was drugging her each night in preparation for what happened.
There you go, honey. Thanks, Mom.
Tiffany would have been drugged enough that she wouldn't have even heard a train going through her home.
That was it. That was it right there. That's what we needed.
Police can now press charges against Mary Lee Orsini.
She was charged with capital felony murder. She was tried and she was convicted.
But what about the male figure that Carol Pate saw in her vision? Investigators believe there was a hired gunman in the Orsini house that night.
That person has not been brought to justice on the Ron Orsini case. So it's still out there.
And Mary Lee isn't talking.
She is in her grave somewhere. She died in jail.
very satisfying that we got the main one in that homicide, the evil one.
With this particular case and Mary Lee, I was like a dog with a bone. I wouldn't let go. I wanted it solved.
I believe Carol Pate gave us direction that helped us because we were pretty well out of directions to go.
I would recommend her to any agency. Call her on in and give her an opportunity. Do it. I'd laugh at you if you didn't.